What is going on? It is Adam aka Marf, and today's show is going to be packed. We're back after 2 days in a severe power outage due to almost nothing. We'll be right back after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right. What is going on, guys? It is Adam aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. We have a lot to talk about because, of course, I was not here yesterday. Again, we actually lost our power. Now, normally this wouldn't be a big deal. We actually just sold our generator to get a better one. We had not gotten that better one. We were going to get a dual fuel. And, of course, things happen when that happens. Now, of course, something that is to be noted, the power went out in over 150,000 homes in Washington, and it was over a tiny storm. Now, this wouldn't have normally been a big deal. In fact, the normal time frame for a power outage for a storm this size would have been, I think, 2 hours. In fact, the power went out at 10 a.m., and it said that it was going to be replaced or fixed by 12:30 p.m. or noon. And then it was updated at 12:30. We checked, and it said it was undetermined. After talking to a few people, including somebody who personally knows a actual dispatcher for the power company, said that essentially there was no crews. They had nobody there. There were no trucks out. If you were driving around some of the areas that were out of power, it was pretty crazy because normally anytime that happens, you don't even think about it unless it doesn't happen. In fact, there were no trucks. And you normally see all these trucks and crews, and you don't realize how many of them are really out when there's a storm like this. But you notice. And once you don't see them, you realize that it's weird. It's actually weird to see no power out with trucks not lining that street, trying to fix the power lines or do this or do that. So a normal storm that would have normally been 2 hours, I think almost took 2 days. Because the lack of workers, they're going to say it's extreme weather and all this. Just to let you know, if you're reading it in the news from some other state, this storm was really not bad. And it actually had yesterday's thumbnail, in fact, was the whole country in blue and then Washington in red. It was like the whole state had over 100,000 outages, and of course it wasn't even that bad. And that's because all of the skilled workers did not follow the rules and are not around, if you know what I mean. So I think that it was pretty messed up. But anyways, if you're new to us, you can be rest assured that we are going to back up almost everything we say with a link, a bibliography, and sources. So again, if you go to our website, you can follow along with all of the stories here today at marfooglenews.com. We're going to be talking about WW4. And a lot of people, in fact, believe that we've already had WW3 and we're in the middle of it. WW4 is going to be the cold version of WW3. It's WW4. Once you click on this, you'll see that every single article, tweet, video, picture that we are going to talk about here today is going to be here. That way you know exactly where it's coming from. Now, the 100,000, that is actually referring to the 100,000 troops that are back on the border of Ukraine. We're going to talk about that here later. We're going to talk about the longest lunar eclipses, the event that the ISS supposedly just went to. Sounds like something out of a movie, and some of you might even say maybe it is a movie, who knows, where they actually jumped into escape pods to possibly miss space debris. Something is going on, and I'll say that right now. I think that something is happening either above us or below us, but we'll get into that in today's show. And then today we have, of course, my wonderful and talented co-host / smartest man on earth, Dex. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So just a reminder, there's also a yellow bar once you get to that. That is the web-only content. That's the stuff that's too hot for TV. That has all the coverage on the pretty much everything that's going on with the Rittenhouse. Of course, everybody's waiting for tomorrow for that. But we'll go over that a little bit more later. But anything that's too hot for TV is down there in the web-only content. If you do want to support us over on the right side, if you do want to do a PayPal during the show or afterwards and have it read tomorrow, again, make sure to go over there. And then any of these affiliates end up supporting us. We are independent. We do not have a multi-channel network. We don't even have a multi-billion-dollar company behind us. We have you. So thank you to the Foogle fam and everybody that believes in me, believes in Dex, believes in this as a team, and believes in the Foogle family in general and the Mafia. So thank you guys. I really appreciate each and every one of you. So without further ado, let's get into it. And there is a lot to cover. Of course, global wealth surges as China overtakes U.S. to grab the top spot. I've been talking about this for 2.5 years, but more so in the last 6 months. There were many people that were quoting saying that China was going to be the richest country, and it looks like it is possibly going to happen. Now, this is a bad thing for anyone that's not in China. There's actually a kind of a chart here. It says where it's stored. It says more than 2/3 of global wealth is held in real estate. Now, anyone who lives in the United States probably knows, even in their local neighborhood, even if you're in a podunk town, who's buying up all of the land. A lot of the Chinese businessmen and a lot of the wealthiest people in the world, they are not allowed to actually own land in China. A lot of people don't actually know this, but as a Chinese citizen, you never actually truly own something. Here, you do. And what's even crazier is there's breaks and there's videos about this that I will try to link up after the show on Twitter, explaining kind of why a lot of Chinese citizens and citizens from other countries buy property here in the U.S. and in Australia and in Europe and other places, because they can actually gain citizenship through this. There's an actual deal where if you spend enough money with the country, you can get citizenship in that country. Now, if you have citizenship, you can not only truly own something, but you can have dual citizenship. You can leave your home country that might be a little bit restrictive. Who knows? And again, I don't know what China's rules on their side are about that. I do know that they keep very close track of every single citizens, including the billionaires. We know that for a fact. Now, as far as it's pretty crazy, 35% of the global wealth is actually held in land. It's held in real estate. We know that a lot of the wealthiest people in the world own a ton of real estate. To name one very specific example recently, Mr. Gates, the founder of Microsoft, he owns the most farmland, I believe, in the world, but maybe just in the U.S. I don't know who the global farm owners are, but out of nowhere, in just the last few years, he bought up all of the farmland. So that should tell you something, considering how connected he is and how involved in almost everything from the computer I'm doing this on right now to the things that are supposedly going to be given to everyone. So pretty crazy stuff there. Jennifer Speck, thank you for subscribing. Teresa Wrench, last show, thank you for dropping in with a $20 super chat. I thank you, Teresa. And that Gen X dude says, Google the movie Melancholia. Thank you. It says global wealth tripled over the last 2 decades, with China leading the way and overtaking the U.S. for the top spot worldwide. It says that's one of the takeaways from the new report by the research arm of consultants McKinsey and Company that examines the national balance sheets of 10 countries representing more than 60% of world income. It says, we are now wealthier than we have ever been. Jan Mischke, a partner at McKinsey Global Institute in Zurich, said in an interview. Net worth worldwide rose to $514 trillion in 2020 from $156 trillion in 2000. So that's a jump of basically $350 trillion in just a short 2 decades compared to the entire world. Most of that, of course, I'm sure is because of the crazy inflation that we have and everything else. But again, that's huge. It says, according to the study, China accounted for almost 1/3 of the increase. Its wealth skyrocketed to $120 trillion from a mere $7 trillion in 2000. Now, I want people to remember that graph that we showed you of the actual business that was done with the U.S. and the business that was done with China. In the year 2000, they actually have facts and data that backs this up. It showed a map that was, in fact, Dex, where should I look for that? That would be a great thing to show because it lines up.
Let me see if I can find it. It's a GDP map or GDP graph.
And it goes, and it says countries that were doing, well, actually, this one was countries that were doing greater trade with China than the U.S. And it flip-flopped, but it not only flip-flopped, it was quite shocking. I believe the map was called countries that were doing greater business with the U.S. or China. This map basically showed that the U.S. was doing business with the entire world. We were exporting things to all of these different countries. And then since 2000, it has basically jumped and completely flip-flopped. And now no one is doing the business with the U.S. and everyone is doing business with China. Now let me, I'll help Dex here try to find this because I think the GDP and this are they should line up exactly, but
it's in screener.
Okay, let's see if it's pretty shocking. In fact, I think that people need to know about this and share this specifically out. Let's see here. So just to show you. So this is, I believe, this should be it. Yes, so check this out. This is absolutely crazy. So this is essentially going from who is the larger trading partner, U.S. or China. And as you can see, the red is taking over. But not only that, I mean, this is a world takeover. So I wonder if we can start again. Okay, so this is in 1980. This is the world, and represented in blue is how the world is trading partners with the U.S. So these are all the countries that are in with the U.S. The clear countries are equal, and then, of course, red is China. So just to play this one more time, because this is pretty shocking, especially since the year 2000, it really, really jumps. So mostly blue all the way up until 2000. And then watch this. Something changed. This is absolutely shocking. These are the countries that are now doing greater trade with China. And that is only until 2018. We're not even talking about the BlackRock investments. We're not even talking about some of the things that have just happened. We're not even talking about in 2019 when all of these businesses opened up there. And remember, so this is because they opened up to capitalism in 1979. So remember, the beginning of this map, if you were in China at the very beginning of this map, it was your first year that you could actually own something, or, they didn't truly own it, but they could start a business. They could make money for themselves. They could keep their money. They weren't part of this huge, communist system where they weren't able to basically make their own money. All of a sudden, after 1979, that changed, and then it opened up to everything. And China took advantage of that. the whole reason that everybody thinks, oh, China builds this crappy stuff and knockoff stuff is because they focused on money, money, money. They built extremely cheap stuff. They did labor for literal peanuts, and they were outsourcing this labor to the world. Well, as more and more companies went over there, and more professional companies, and more companies ended up getting caught in the early 2000s, like, hey, you've got kids making this stuff in this city and that city. They started to have more restrictions, but they were still in China. They were building in China, and they were doing a lot of business. Now, I mean, this is a pretty shocking change to jump from that to that. That should tell you who exactly is taking over the planet right now. I mean, this is cold hard proof of what we've been saying for a long time. So, I mean, if you can't see it, I don't know what to say. Dex, do you not agree as far as this should shock people? Since the beginning of when they were able to start and have businesses, what was their goal? And again, remember, they just shut everything down. They don't want English in their country anymore. They made their money. 1/3 of that number was from the Chinese. That's incredible.
Yeah, and it looks like, a big jump started around 2007, really 2009, and then it's just grown ever since then. And it's been significant. And it's partially our doing, and partially their doing, right?
Well, this is pretty clear, and it should show you exactly what's happening here. So if anybody needs this information, again, this is at visualcapitalist.com, China-U.S. World's trading partner. So pretty clear, and I guess the other part of that is that 1/3 of all of that global wealth that was created was all in China. Out of the entire world, 1/3 of that was in China. And more billionaires were birthed in China than anywhere else. And where did they take that money? They went and they ended up buying land in other countries. So with everything that is currently going on, I would not doubt that they have the buco bucks. People think that, there's a lot of propaganda out there saying this and saying that. I think it's pretty clear when you know all of the facts of what's going on, who is actually trying to take over the world right now. That's my opinion. Of course, leave yours down below. Cameron Combs, thank you, says Israel 365 reported that they're getting anointing oil ready to anoint the high priest and temple utensils and Messiah later, but Jesus is the real Messiah. Again, I would have to check that out. Is Israel 365? I'll check it out. Scary and chilling, AI surveillance takes U.S. prisons by storm. It says that U.S. prisons are installing AI-powered surveillance to fight crime. Documents seen by the Thompson Foundation show, but critics say privacy rights are being trampled. It says on November 15th, when the sheriff in Suffolk County, New York, requested $700,000 from the U.S. government for an artificial intelligence system to eavesdrop on prison phone conversations, his office called it a key tool in fighting gang-related and violent crime. It says, but the county jail ended up listening to the calls involving a much wider range of subjects, scanning as much as 600,000 minutes per month, according to public records from the county obtained by Thompson Foundation. It said that beginning in 2019, Suffolk County was an early pilot site for the Verus AI scanning system sold by California-based LEO Technologies, which uses Amazon speech-to-text technology to transcribe phone calls by keyword searches. So this is probably using the same kind of systems that, of course, well, Amazon, I guess, would be one thing, but they don't really have, do they have a social media? They do have a platform like this.
Yeah, they're using their engine to convert the text to speech, but then it's going into an AI system. The one thing you got to think about here is they have a wealth of information to train an AI algorithm. In other words, they don't have to deal with the privacy issues, even though they're talking about this from a privacy perspective. When you think about, the phone calls in prison and the conversations that may happen in front of cameras, all of that stuff, there's basically no rights to privacy, I would think, in prison, with the exception of talking to your lawyer, right? So having access or having all of that, those phone calls, all of that conversation, all of that information from video cameras, et cetera, gives them the ideal opportunity to train these AI engines and learn from that, so they can, sure, use it for their own needs, but this will also benefit these algorithms to be used for other things. That's probably what's the most scary part here.
And it's not going to stop at prison. So what's going to end up happening is they're going to train it, and they're going to get it. I mean, they have plenty of guinea pigs in prison to listen to those voices, to get all that data, to get the inflections of different type of people, different accents, all different types of people. And nobody cares because it's prison, right? Nobody's going to, start protesting and say, give these prisoners their rights. Nobody's on their doorstep getting pissed off about this. But at the same time, once this is an experiment. This isn't even an experiment. This is their training grounds for them to bring this out into the public. And I'm sure there's going to be private companies, and we're going to be reading an article in a couple years that says this is horrible, that that they're using this system to surveil the U.S. citizens or Australian citizens, or to surveil all of our phone calls. Now, it doesn't seem that too unbelievable when you consider what Edward Snowden and all these other people came out with years ago. Now imagine if they have an AI system that's automatically going through these things and picking out the most craziest stuff. And of course, now they have a new conflict on terror, right? Who are the new terrorists, right? I believe it's us. I'm pretty sure, and by us, I mean United States citizens. That is their biggest threat, or at least that was according to our administration just a few months ago. And we have something to cover on that. Of course, the level has gone up. The alert. We'll go over that, I believe, actually later. And I didn't want to misquote that. Yeah, they said it was to severe in the UK. So they're actually expecting a T attack in UK, and they're warning us. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. But let's go back to this. And space debris event forces the ISS to take evasive measures. Now, this is pretty crazy. It says 7 ISS astronauts evacuated into transport spaceships after Russia conducted major anti-satellite weapons test and sent debris flying uncomfortably close. So just to read that again, the 7 ISS astronauts who supposedly are up there and evacuated into these transport spaceships, these escape pods, were there because of a Russia anti-satellite weapon. So was it a test of an anti-satellite weapon, or was it an actual use of an anti-satellite weapon? It says the U.S. said on Monday that it was investigating a debris-generating event in outer space after astronauts on the International Space Station were forced to prepare for a possible evacuation. It came amid unconfirmed reports that Russia had carried out an anti-satellite weapon, or ASAT, test, rare show of force demonstrations criticized by the space community because of the risk they create for crews in low Earth orbit. It said U.S. Space Command is aware of a debris-generating event in outer space, and we are actively working to characterize the debris field and will continue to ensure all space-faring nations and will have the information necessary to maneuver satellites if impacted. It says we are also in the process of working with the State Department and NASA concerning these reports and will provide an update in the near future. So whatever happened up there, I guess, what do you guys think this was? Do you think that this was truly a test, or do you think that there is some sort of space conflict going on above us? Tyler 0080C, thank you for subscribing. Cameron Combs, again, thank you. Jennifer Speck, thank you. So as far as all of this, I mean, it sounds like they're doing stuff in space. Something is happening above us, and this is why we have warned you. So as I kind of did in that video, I showed that we had power outages local here, but why it really mattered is because there was nobody to fix it. Our adversaries know right now that we are screwed because of the current rules and how many trained staff members and all of the linemen and all of the drivers and all of the different people that are not going to work because they don't want to follow the rules. those people are also leaving this gap where things are not being fixed. And that is because they're being forced to do something they didn't want to do, right? Well, the adversaries know this. It's almost like it's set up. And if there was ever the worst time to hit us right now, if you were to knock down our entire grid, think about this. When you've got all these people that are not working or not official or not there, I wonder what would happen. Like, say if our grid did go down and all these people that are not going to work because of this, would they voluntarily just hop up and fix it because it's for their country? Or would they even be able to contact these people? Do you think that, let me ask you this, all the people that that are not going to work right now, the real reason why nobody's fixing these power outages, like even the little tiny power outages are taking 2 days where they would normally take 2 hours. Do you think when SHTF happens, there's no communication, all of our communications are down, Russia or China or any other countries take out our satellites, which they've been practicing, they take out our GPS, they take out all of our stuff. Do you think that those people that were at home right now that are not working, they're not officially on the clock, and they're not even they're technically fired, quit, or retired, do you think that they're all just going to show up at work and say, hey, let me grab my gear, let me go out and fix lines? Or will there be absolutely no organization whatsoever because these people are not even working? There's little skeleton crews that are barely fixing one thing at a time. And even if they were there, is there going to be organization to even fix our grid when it goes down? When we do have a massive EMP or a massive grid down event, right now would be the worst time to have it, because right now is the time where you have the least people working. And I mean like the most trained, the most specific people in this field. I'm sorry, I've lived here my whole life and I've never had the power take that long to get back on. And by the way, no, we've had days long things, but it was days long of a storm. This was like, this was like knock your chair over. This was meme worthy because there were previous storms that they hyped up for Washington, and there was memes like it was a plastic table and 4 plastic chairs, and one of the plastic chairs had tipped over, and it said the Washington storm 2018. It was a big joke because it was barely windy, and they called it, and they said that we were all, it was a Stormageddon and all of this stuff all over news. And what did it end up being? It was like a little windy. We had a bomb cyclone hit the entire West Coast, and we had power in less than, we didn't even lose power, but the places that did lose power, even down the street from me, they were up in about 35 minutes. The other ones, the other place that I heard about was up in about an hour and a half. That was before that deadline. Now is the worst time and the best time to hit us at the same time. As far as best time for China, worst time for us. Bible Talk for Common People says they are flying all over to replace us after everyone got the croaks. Yeah, maybe. Mark Sutton says we already had an attack in England with in a taxi at a hospital. Love the show. Keep up the great work. Yep, that's in tonight's news. Again, that's exactly why they're raising their level. But they also said something that is very important, so stay tuned. Now, as far as Russian space agency Roscosmos confirmed something had happened, but it downplayed the incident. It says the orbit of the object, which forced the crew today to move into spacecrafts according to standard procedures, has moved away from the ISS orbit. The station is in the green zone, the agency tweeted. Friends, everything is regular with us. We continue to work according to the program, tweeted Anton Shketlaparov, the current commander of the outpost. NASA astronaut Mark Vande Hey thanked NASA's mission control at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, for the situational awareness they gave the astronauts during the check-in, marking the end of the astronauts' day at about 12 p.m. Eastern. So, what do you think this event was in space that caused these supposedly these ISS astronauts to go into their pods? Who knows? Dex, do you have anything to say about it before we move on?
No, I just, I wonder who actually caused the event, whether it was Russia or someone else, and they're just being blamed for it.
Yeah, right. Especially if they were, if they're able to call Russia and go, hey, can we blame this on a test or something? Maybe it was a third party or another smaller country that did it. Who knows? It says the longest lunar eclipse in centuries will happen this week. NASA says what to know. And essentially it says that the nearly total lunar eclipse is expected overnight Thursday, November 18th to Friday, November 19th. So that's again Thursday night into Friday morning. The moon will be so close to the opposite of sun on November 19th that it will pass through the southern part of the shadow of Earth for a nearly total lunar eclipse, NASA said on its website. It says the eclipse will last 3 hours, 28 minutes, and 23 seconds. So basically almost a 4-hour eclipse. So stay tuned for that, and you can again, the map is actually on this when you click the space.com link on that, you can see when that happens. So again, that's at marfooglenews.com. Over on DLive, I do want to say thank you, and again, here's a message from Tom Homan. Let me make sure. Let's see.
My name is Tom Homan. I'm the former ICE director under President Donald Trump, and I'm here to ask America to wake up. You can protect yourself, and at the same time protect this great nation. The threat of electromagnetic pulse is real, EMP. If you don't know what it is, look it up. It's a matter of life and death. I recently partnered with a Midwest company, veteran-owned, that has developed a device you can hook up to your home or your vehicle to protect you against the EMP. I highly encourage you to go to EMPshield.com and research this device. Again, it will protect you, in the long term, protect this great nation. Thank you.
That was Tom Homan, former ICE director, suggesting the EMP shield. If you don't know what the EMP shield is, then you should. You can go to marfooglenews.com and check it out. We're recommending this. I am personally recommending it because I believe we will have an event like this, and I've shown you the facts of why I believe that. I've shown you the data of why I believe that. I've shown you the reports from Peter Pry and the EMP Task Force of the United States government. I've shown you the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security alert that told us to all have at least 6 months to a year of food and water, and that is because I believe that this will happen. Thank you, hon. And again, go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. Again, you can actually protect yourself against all three phases. All the information is there. Go check it out. All right, and then we have a mysterious high-intensity blast rocks China before CCP's 6th plenary, and state media is busy covering it up. So I did cover this on a short video, and this is pretty crazy because, honestly, I did an actual short on this, and it's pretty insane because there were 10 high-intensity blasts. And when we say high-intensity, we're talking about taking out whole city blocks, and nobody was talking about it. They said that it was gas-related, that it was some sort of gas explosion, at least for one of the big ones. That was the one that I could find on mainstream, but all of the other ones were not. To me, it almost looks like a rod of God technology or something from space. That was my opinion. Again, if you see some of the pictures, it's pretty shocking how big these blasts are. And we don't truly know how many people actually perished in these 10 events because it's China. It says, with empty stomachs and freezing powerless houses, it seems that the Chinese people have had enough of the regime of the Chinese party. And resultantly, fatal bomb blasts and explosions are taking over entire mainland China. A media report suggests that about 10 explosion accidents have rocked China in just 1 week from since 21 ahead of the 6th plenary session of the CCP commencing from November 8th in Beijing. This raises serious questions on whether these high-intensity bomb blasts causing several deaths and injuries are a mere coincidence or do reflect the staggering level of chaos in the top CCP echelons. Now, Dex, from what you've seen on this, what do you actually... So, Some people think that these are T attacks, or say that it's the people that they're pissed off at the government, or that this is some sort of faction kind of argument. Some think that it is naturally occurring. Some think that this is possibly another country doing this to them. Have you really looked into? Did you see all the pictures of all of these blasts?
Well, the one thing that comes to my mind is whatever information we're getting out of there is not going to be the truth. It's going to be what they want us to hear. So when we hear this about just a few people died here, or this was an industrial, accident, or this was a gas pipeline, et cetera, we have to really take that with a grain of salt. And it is very likely that there's a couple of other scenarios going on here, whether it is internal T style events or internal uprising, or is it something external happening? Whether it be, newer technology being used to create events, or some sort of sabotage that's going on from external forces.
Is there I don't think this has any pictures of this, but many are questioning if they're fabricating a cover-up of something major, and that's because if you see some of these now, I wonder if there's any. Some of the videos that I saw were literally shocking. We're talking about Tianjin. Well, actually, there was an explosion in Tianjin. There was one in like Guangdong. There was one all over the place, and these are gigantic. These are city block size explosions. Let me see if
I got one in screener.
Okay, perfect. There was one in particular where it looks like it's out of a movie. If you've ever seen a movie like a mass an end of the world movie where, say, the wave comes, I think 2012 has one. The Rock, the 9.0 earthquake movie with The Rock has one, where you see down the street lines, like all of the cars and the taxis lined up, and then you see the whole street, the smoke or water coming down. In this case, it was smoke, but it looked like scenes from September of 2001. It really did. And you actually see the smoke billow in and fill it. It was like they just knocked out two skyscrapers or something, and they just, collapsed them. Let's see here. Let's see.
I think the first image is of a city street, and it just looks like absolute chaos.
Yeah, this is huge, and they're blaming at least one of them on a huge gas explosion, but it's kind of more than a coinkydink when you have more than more than 10 in 7 days.
Yeah, and look at how much is in the street and how much is all over that car, and how much of the building is gone, and down the street and down the angles you can sort of see in there. That's a lot.
Yeah, let's look at the next one too. Let's see. Yeah, that was definitely, that's a gas explosion. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a gas. Yeah. What? Hell on Earth? Yeah. That was just a gas explosion in 14 apartment complexes at the same time. They'll believe it. We just got to say it with flair. Say it with flair. Yeah, okay. We believe you. But something is definitely going on in China. I don't know if it's backlash. That's why I say that I think WW3 has already begun. I think WW4 will be considered something else if we ever get past this, or if the third of the population that survives, or the 1/8 of the population that they say will survive. I think that they'll look back and they'll say that we are already in one, with the cyber conflict, with the propaganda level, with the social media conflicts that we're in right now, with the information war that we are in. I think that they'll call that WW3, and the next actual physical confrontation WW4. UK raises threat level to severe after a tea incident. Again, that's our filter word for the day. At Liverpool Hospital. It says, after a car blast outside a Liverpool Women's Hospital killed one person, the UK police on Monday declared it a tea incident. 3 people were arrested as police quickly moved to set up barricades as the blast took place on Sunday. The passenger in the car was declared, the driver was injured in the blast. It says British counter-terrorism officers immediately began to investigate the incident along with local police as 3 men were reportedly detained in the Kensington area and then arrested under the Terrorism Act. Which, by the way, the U.S. is not the only one to have their own kind of, all of their acts, right? They got their act straight, as you can say. It says,
and speaking of America, Adam, don't forget, we reported a couple weeks ago that they had found this type of equipment in a ship or in a barge and also in a tugboat, right, along a certain river. I want to say it was the Ohio River, or I think it was Mississippi. It may have been the Ohio River. And so, this stuff's kind of happening, and we're not necessarily getting all of the picture of what's going on and when the next event will really happen.
What I want to know is who they're blaming this on, what kind of person this is. It says Britain's Interior Minister Priti Patel, which is, that's really crazy, said that the terrorism threat level in the country has been increased from substantial, because they're so polite there, to severe. After the car blast incident, the police confirmed the improvised explosive device was made by the passenger. It says the car was a taxi which had stopped in front of the hospital as it exploded. The blast occurred as Britain was observing Remembrance Day on Sunday. The taxi driver was hailed as a hero after reports claimed he locked the passenger in the car after he grew suspicious. The passenger reportedly wanted to attend the Remembrance Day service where several people had gathered. Prime Minister Boris Johnson said on Monday that the taxi driver behaved with incredible presence of mind and bravery. So, Dex, wait, hold on. Let me get this straight. Did he know that there was a device and locked him in? And you can't really... maybe if it's a former cop car, I don't think... Even if he locks it, what is he, pushing on the button several times and they're doing that game? Come on. Oh, don't. Come on.
Well, the cabs are different over there. And the type of cabs are different over there. So I don't know if they have, because they're walled off from the front to the back. It's not like you're just sitting. It's not like you're sitting in an Uber, right? And it's definitely not like sitting in most taxi cabs in most other, U.S. cities, maybe with the exception of New York, where they also have that wall in between. So I don't know if they actually have the ability to completely lock the door. It wouldn't surprise me if they do, if they do have that capability. So it sounds like, from what they're reporting is that's what he did. And he didn't deliver the person to where he wanted to go and instead went to the hospital.
Well, so you're saying, who knows, it might actually, and if anybody wants to chime in, if you know the exact thing, everybody is an expert on internet stories, but if you know exactly what it's like to be in that same kind of taxi, because it could be like a jewelry store where if somebody doesn't pay their, fee, you lock them in and it's got a bulletproof glass thing and they're stuck in the back like a cop car. Who knows?
Yeah, and it's kind of like you can do that with child locks too, right?
Oh, that is true. But usually the child lock is an actual switch on the inside of the door thing, so that doesn't work. I've never seen it as, well, I guess maybe some of the newer cars have that. I don't know. Either way, you would think that would be a negative because of people that kidnap people and, that whole thing, abducting people. Wages World, keep rocking the truth. Glad to see you have power now. Dex is the best producer on YT 100%. Yes, indeed. Hey, Wages, how are you doing? And it's good to see you. If you guys haven't checked out Wages World, again, make sure to go check them out. If you see blue Kool-Aid at the top, you're at the right place. And then K Smalls, is that K Smalls or K? I thought that was a different language. Can everyone say a prayer for Amy Hawley? Prayers does wonders. Marfoogle TV, I'm being attacked, my channel. I will have to check it out. I can't read your channel name because of those weird letters. I think it's Malls or Maulus. Anyways, I will make sure to click on it afterwards. I'm praying for you. And then Bible Talk for Common People. Thank you. Wages World. Mark Sutton says, yes, in England, you can lock someone in a cab. That's pretty, yeah. I mean, it makes sense. As far as if he knew there was a device, did he lock it in knowing that he was possibly going to die? Like, that is pretty courageous if that's what actually happened. It sounds like did he not pay his fare and be like, haha, I'm going to go take myself out and take everybody with me. And then he's like, yo, failure. This is apparently a huge mistake by the boomer here. It says EU is to step up sanctions on Belarus over escalating border crisis. Before we move on, though, I do want to say about this. They're telling us that there's going to be more. We told you about a month ago that they had these alerts. Dex, do you remember? We actually covered several things, including some of the warnings from the government agencies, not only in the UK but the US, about future attacks. And now we are starting to see these things where now we're finding these devices in these containers, in these trucks. And there was actually the house where they found all of these things in, I want to say, North Carolina. And the guy had tickets to New York. So what is actually going on here?
Well, yeah. And you know, this... What's happened in the UK and what's happening in probably the rest of Europe is the same thing that we're going to be susceptible here to in the US. And if we don't think we are, then you just got your head in the sand and we're sort of naive. That's, you know, what I'm saying when I think about some of the events that we have covered that were sort of brushed under the carpet, so to speak, like, or under the rug, so to speak, like the material found in the gravel container that was going down the river, and the tugboats that were found that had, you know, material in them as well, boomer material. So yeah, there's a lot going on there. And then, you know, as it relates to the, you know, expansion of the conflict in EU with the border in Poland, that's just going to get it's going to be more intensified as that turns actually into a conflict. But the act of that conflict is also going to spread throughout EU with other people, you know, potentially doing bad things.
I wanted to show something that was a little bit related here as far as the next situation we're going to be talking about, the EU. It said people are fighting over, it says UN food distribution at the Belarus-Poland border descends into chaos. Now, this was a short, and it showed this video of basically all of these migrants like frantically grabbing at the food. And then you see at the top, there's a 7 to 10. In fact, I didn't even see some of the attachments. A $7 to $10 to $15,000 camera. In fact, it has a viewfinder, and it's, I believe, a Canon. I believe this is like one of the biggest and best cameras you can get right now. Plus, I don't know what this attachment is, if that's a monitor or whatever it is. Basically, it's a $10,000 or $15,000 camera setup with the crazy lens, everything else. These people are literally grabbing for any speck of food they can grab, and this guy's got a $10,000, $15,000 camera right in the middle of it. Now, if you remember, we talked about how they were accusing of them of essentially staging this. And some people said that it reminded them of what's happening at our border here in the U.S. Like another country is potentially maybe sending people or encouraging it or possibly paying for it or, you know, moving things around, doing some sort of CIA operation or KGB or whatever the Chinese version is called to get this to happen. Now, Russia is being accused of kind of setting this up with the whole Poland and Belarus thing. I think it's kind of funny because RT is there and others are there with their $15,000 camera and nobody's like, these people are literally begging for an ounce of food, and these guys are able to walk around with their expensive camera gear and everything else. It's showing extreme desperation, but at the same time they're respectful. I don't know. It seems like it's a little off. The cameras are right there to catch it, right? So just seems a little off. And then it says they are to step up sanctions, the EU, on Belarus over escalating border crisis. This is actually a really sad little picture. It's like the people that get involved, the kids and everybody else that gets dragged through all of these things, whether it's for good reasons or bad, whether they're headed to a better life or to a worse life. Either way, it's like, these kids that end up having to cross, it's pretty bad. It says the European Union will toughen sanctions on Belarus on Monday and may extend them to include airlines and others involved in transporting migrants, the EU's top diplomat said, as the migrant crisis on the Polish border intensifies. It says ahead of an EU foreign ministries meeting, Germany's Heiko Maas said airlines could be told to stop transporting migrants to Minsk or face being banned from landing in Europe. It says, warning, we are nowhere near the end of the sanctions spiral. Europe accuses Belarus, of mounting a hybrid attack by flying in migrants from countries like Syria and Afghanistan and pushing them to cross illegally into the EU member Poland. Belarus has repeatedly denied the accusation. Does this sound familiar, Dex?
It does. And it's almost like it's being used as a type of conflict device, right? It's not like, okay, we're not going to fire, bang bangs across the border. We're not going to shoot missiles over there. Instead, we're going to go grab some people that we know they don't want. We're going to pick them up, fly them in, and then send them to the border and shove them across, right? And we know that will destabilize them, or that will, cause harm on them. And that's just, that's insane. And not only that, Lord only knows what they may be doing with those people and implanting certain people in there to cause havoc once they get to the other side, right?
Exactly. As far as sleepers go, there's real facts. As far as our own country, we know that there's a certain percentage, and we've actually gotten confirmation of this in many ways. In fact, even admissions from people that have come here that have admitted that they're, as far as they're here to do destruction or they're here to do bad. And some of those are admissions after they get caught by police or federal agents or whatever else. There are real crimes that happens. Not everything is... as far as not everything is fake, not everything is, some sort of staged thing, there are real things that happen. And there are real people that get hurt, and there are real people that, die. I believe that at the very least, I would not make a judgment on this because I'm not there. And honestly, whatever the media is usually trying to get you to think, you should probably think the opposite, but that's just my opinion. And let's see here. Arriving at the meeting in Brussels, EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell told reporters the ministers would approve further sanctions on Minsk on Monday. The EU might also seek to broaden them to include airlines, travel agents, and other people involved in transporting migrants to Belarus. Borrell said that he had told the Belarusian foreign minister over the weekend that the situation on the border was completely unacceptable and the humanitarian help was needed. So we'll see. We'll follow up and keep updating on that story because it does matter. I mean, it's basically a proxy event as well. And then Poland border crisis, migrants tear gassed trying to cross from Belarus. So that actually... there were many events that happened, including I've heard that there was rubber bullets as well. It said some of the migrants at the border threw stones at the Polish forces. The defense ministry says for weeks, thousands of migrants, mostly from the Middle East, have been gathering at the Belarus border in an attempt to reach the European Union. Belarus has been accused of pushing them to the border in an attempt to destabilize the EU, a charge it denies. EU-Belarus relations have been severely strained since long-term leader Alexander Lukashenko declared victory in a discredited president last year and tried to silence dissent by cracking down on mass protests and arresting political opponents. The EU imposed sanctions on Belarus in the wake of a poll and, along with the U.S., will step them up following the border crisis. There have been more than 5,000 attempts by migrants to cross the border into Poland from Belarus so far this month, compared to just 88 in the whole of last year. So you could see why they would say that this is artificial or made up or out of somewhere. They had 88 people try to cross their border last year. This year, so far, 5,000. I believe that's how many percent more? I mean, if it was 100 migrants, if it was 5,000, what is that, 500 times what it normally is?
We blew that number away with just one city in Texas. But I would also mention, Adam, that it's worth mentioning, not to necessarily stick up for Alexander, but when you look at the way this article is written and you look at the position the EU, allies with the US, is taken as, oh, this guy's bad because he has, arrested his dissents and tried to take out anybody that was protesting against him. So maybe that should be something that, free countries shouldn't do, is arrest people that are dissents or people that were running political opponents, things like that, right? Or do we?
Well, I guess that's one way to do it, right? It says the migrants attacked our soldiers and officers with stones, and they were trying to destroy the fence and get to Poland. Our services used tear gas to quell the migrants' aggression. And then it says Russian warns tensions with the West are almost at a boiling point, and Putin is ready to destroy if borders are violated. I guess I'm always in a spot where, people don't know what is propaganda and what is not. I would say that the same result is going to happen as far as we're leading up to a world conflict that people have never seen before. There's no going back. Right now, the world is being reset, and there's going to be a new leader. The U.S. was in a lot of ways, and pretty much it was the leader of the world. It was the number one country. There are other countries trying to take that spot, or at least put America down further. And they've done a lot. This is the biggest operation and the biggest conflict I've ever seen, and you don't realize it, but it's happening all around you. Everything. This is something that's been going on for decades. This is a conflict that started before we even knew that there was, while we were in all these other conflicts, we were actually in a different conflict. We were in WW3. They were changing our school systems. They were changing our beliefs. They were changing our morals. They were changing our constitution. They were changing everything around us. They were changing our rights. What's really scary is that this is now spread worldwide. And these beliefs in just a short 2 years have been flipped all over on their side. It is my opinion, and it's not to scare anybody, that we will be soon at war. And I believe that, in my opinion, I want as many people to at least see why I think that. But I also believe it's because we are closing in at that time, like as human beings and as a being, as far as God has a plan for everybody, and that something is going on to the point where it's coming up. Our time is running out. That is at least my thoughts. It says Russia has warned relations with the West are almost at a boiling point as tensions amount over the migrants at the Poland-Belarus border. It says with NATO and Russian forces playing cat and mouse games, Vladimir Putin said he would simply destroy any country that encroached on his country's territory. Recent days have seen U.S. officials warn Russia may be plotting an imminent invasion of Ukraine, with the Kremlin amassing 100,000 troops on their border. It says Vladimir Putin's regime has been accused of stoking the unfolding migrant crisis between Belarus and Poland and even sent nuclear bombers into the area. Okay, so if you've ever heard of the saying, history repeating itself, there was an event, and I don't want to, I should probably pull up, let's see, I'm trying to think if it was 1 or 2. There's a pretty important part here that Poland was the start of WW2. It says Hitler's invasion of Poland in September 1939 drove Great Britain and France to declare war on Germany, marking the beginning of World War II. So when you say, because I heard a couple comments saying, who cares about Poland? Who cares about Poland? Hitler cared about Poland. Our entire, every single history book in the world cared about Poland. These are important. It's because a lot of the people in the U.S. don't know anything outside of the U.S. And we're talking about, these are huge boundaries right here. And Russia could be setting up, having their troops on Ukraine, have some sort of false kind of stoked thing happen. That be a Fantastic Freddy. If you don't know what Fantastic Freddy is, ask somebody. And that would be able to trigger them doing something in defense, right? It's kind of like tricking somebody to punch you so you can beat them up. Or say somebody who's a black belt in karate or something, and they've registered their fists as weapons. So if they just haul off and beat somebody up, that's, they're beating up with deadly weapons, right? But if they're doing it as self-defense, that's a different story. But it would be like somebody like that making sure that the other guy throws the first punch. So then they can do whatever they're doing and they have an excuse. Or they have the world's acceptance, or at least have their own people's acceptance. I also heard there was an event at the very beginning of that where they did a Fantastic Freddy. Let me see here.
Well, and while you're pulling that up, Adam, there was also, let's not forget, Poland is part of NATO. It entered it in 99. It was also, during the Soviet days, was a satellite state. It was not under Soviet control, but it was considered a satellite state of the Soviet Union back then. So there's a lot of interest in Russia's part, or at least, tension in Russia's part about them gaining their independence and joining NATO, and not, which is against Russia, so to speak, right? And the bordering country like Belarus, which is not part of it, and part of Russia or Russia ally.
So I think that there is possibly a lot more at stake here than people are realizing. And I mean, if you add everything up and you don't see, if you add 1 + 1 and you get 18, then you're not figuring this out. This is clear as day. We're not trying to convince people. We're trying to show people what we see. I guess the signs that are like blatantly obvious to most of us. And I know that most of you agree, as far as most of you see it. And there might be little changes in some of the opinions you have, or some of you may not at all. Maybe you hate my channel and you watch because you hate me, and that's, again, there's people watch people they hate because it's more interesting than watching something boring, right? But as far as this goes, with China, with Taiwan, with Ukraine, with Russia setting up, with this Poland, Belarus thing, this entire, everything is being set up on purpose. These things all get used later. And that operation name, you look up Operation Himmler. One of the things that I believe they did is they dressed up as Polish soldiers, and I'm pretty sure, they dressed up as Polish soldiers in Germany and threw a grenade into a school of German kids. So when you're a German citizen and you see, oh, the Polish did this to our children, their eyes were red, it was 100%, it got their blood boiling, and they all wanted to go after, and it got the support, or at least that's part of it, right? So there'll be these operations where, of course, there'll be somebody with their $10,000 camera getting it on video, because that might be the video that triggers the next world conflict. I don't know why people think that a world conflict is necessarily the end of the world. It would make money for so many. And you think that they care about people's lives. They don't. Why do you think so many people, over money, they don't care if they make money and their product poisons millions of people, or they don't care about that? Why do you think there's been so many lawsuits against these big companies after they find out that their product or their toothpaste or their stuff is killing people? They don't care. Because think about it, everybody's on this rat race, and really what their main goal is to get the richest they possibly can. And that the money that they make basically silences all the guilt that they have. Now that's them. Obviously that's horrible. There are people that it doesn't matter. Their conscience can be paid off. They just shut down their conscience and they say, I don't care, because they're making money for themselves. You pretty much everything that you see as far as WW2, I think a lot of it was money and power. But also, if you know about what Adolf actually hated, right? Some of his statements and what he was going after, he did make something that he believed people could back up. Even there's evil geniuses on. I mean, he's the evil villain of the world, right? But there's a reason why, he was able to trick people with these common values that people could get behind, and we're going to see that again. It looks like we're already seeing it right now. We're seeing it, now we are seeing it especially versus the U.S. The U.S. is being painted, and probably is the bad guy in a lot of cases, to the rest of the world. Before we move on, I just want to remind you, if you do have the urge to grab extra food, water, this is a good thing. You can actually do it at a discount and be helping your favorite channel at the same time. If you've ever heard of My Patriot Supply, they do long and short-term survival food. In fact, they have food that can last years and still taste good. I actually tried 4 different companies before I picked one, and I thought that this was the best tasting. And I actually tried a 7-year sample, something that was 7 years old, from these guys that my buddy had, and I was absolutely amazed. So I don't personally, for my long-term food stock, I didn't want something that was going to be gross. And again, even if all of them were gross, if every company was gross, I would still do it. But again, you kind of want life to be as normal as possible if SHTF happens. And I do believe it will happen, and I think a lot of you guys do as well. Main really important factor here is this is a one-stop shop from everything from iodine pills to long-term survival food, water filtration, air purification, emergency radios, battery, power solutions. Same thing like with this. The only reason we couldn't have camped out in our house was our 1-year-old, and the combination of having a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old. We could have done it, but again, it was not going to be easy, right? There are some things that I wish I actually had from this. So go to marfooglenews.com/prep if you want to, again, support the channel. It will not cost you anything more, and it will help us out as well. They end up sending us a commission for sending you there, and then also you are helping yourself, helping us, and again, helping a good company. Go to marfooglenews.com/prep. Now, Dex, it says NATO warns Russia over the Ukraine military buildup. Do you want to explain? And by the way, they are back. They were there before. We warned about this. We said that they would be back. In fact, you called some very specific things months ago.
Yeah, so we knew this was going to happen, right? It was sort of foretold in the sense that when they went in and did, this huge troop buildup, and then at the last minute it said, "Oh, it's just a drill, don't worry about it," but then left all their equipment, and then they later claimed that they were going to have more drills in November, and now here we are in the month of November, and boom, all of the troops are back, and of course it looks exactly like what they were setting up before, almost as if the springtime was a trial run, and now maybe the real deal. Time will tell if they're really going to cross the border, or if this is yet just another intimidation type drill at the border of the Ukraine. But obviously it is catching the eye of everyone, and it likely should, especially when you're seeing numbers as high as 100,000 stacking up overnight there. And obviously the NATO countries are getting together and trying to get pretty stern about it. One thing to note, Ukraine is not part of NATO. They asked to join. But you don't join like overnight. So it didn't happen as fast as they were hoping to. But it is something that they would want to be part of. And that's certainly clear from NATO's perspective. So I think that's probably why we're also seeing them stand up to them.
And now as far as there's no plan to take Ukraine that doesn't also include China taking Taiwan. So if this does happen, it would happen overnight. Real quick, Miss Jackson says, can anyone help me help my friends cremate their dog? If there is, the reason why I especially think it would be really cool if there was a Fugel family or a Mafia related business that did that. So specifically, that's kind of a weird question, right? If there's any Mafia businesses that do cremation or funeral services in the Fugel family, it would be way more awesome if you could support a Fugel family member before supporting somebody off the street, right? So Miss Jackson 906 in the live, and that again goes out to YouTube, all the thousands watching over there. Chewy Weather, thank you for being here. Jem, thank you for the lemons, and thank you for modding. Let's see here. Crop, thank you for being here. Gas Electric, Karen from Columbus, Scrappylicious. Sammy Lee, so nice to see you here tonight. I was actually talking to my friend, and I actually knew a Sammy Lee in high school. She ended up being a really awesome singer, and she was on like P. Diddy making the band and all sorts of stuff. Respiratory Jane, thank you. Leo X White, Michelle K. Poland want 0 immigrants. Yes, I don't think it's about I don't think it's about the people. I think there's something else going on here. And then that Chalky Gal, thank you. Bear Lover 92,000. Red Butterfly and Edgy Whalen, Earthwoman, and Kelizzy. Thank you, everybody, for supporting us. We are independent. We don't have anybody but you, so thank you. As far as the system here, there's going to be a day or a night. I want to say they're going to pick this time that's either early in the morning for here and in the middle of the night for here, where they would take Taiwan as fast as they could. One thing that I don't know, though, is if U.S. troops are on that island, how fast we would get there. And one thing that I am looking for is for all of our U.S. soldiers to be deployed, and to be deployed, via Navy. If you end up having a ton of friends and family all of a sudden deployed, and their mission statement says to go to the West Coast and get on a boat, that's where we have to start looking out. Or they do it in surprise. Russia takes Ukraine and China takes Taiwan and they actually get it, will we then go to a conflict to get it back? Or will we let them have it? At this point, our president has said twice, which again, whoever's running our country said twice, basically whoever's running him said for him to say that he will step in the middle. But it's one thing to say, I will step in and we'll try to defend them. It's different than, we'll actually have ships and defenses set up 24/7 outside their island. Because it's going to take a long time to respond to it. One of the things that China has said is it's so close. I mean, it's really close. Dex, isn't it like 100 miles or something from mainland China? Is it like
I don't know the distance, but it's really close.
And just guessing, it's probably however hundreds of miles, thousands of miles away from the U.S. So are we going to be able to step in and protect them? Unless we have them out there, or we have basically our entire Air Force jet over there, then no. I guess it depends on how they would invade. As far as Ukraine, I know that we've got military over by Ukraine and military over by Taiwan. So what is actually going to happen here? Sounds like this is the real deal, and that's why I think it very well could happen in the next couple of weeks. It could happen in the next month. Hopefully it doesn't, though, obviously. Chessie, Naughty Beaver's latest vid deleted as I watched. Free store front hand sanitizers tested, found to contain no graphite oxide. Why did, what was Naughty Beaver covering? And I have seen them do that. They've done it to us one time during the David Hogg stuff. And then K Small says, I changed my font back for you, Marv. Please pray for me and Amy. She's having a rough time in my channel of 10 years worth is being attacked. I was unsubbed. I believe the unsub part, as far as that happens to everybody. Again, well, I got that reminder. Make sure to hit that bell and select all. As far as everything else, I try to keep out of the drama, and that's why I don't do any negative videos about any other channels, because it ends up just being a nasty circle of just nonstop drama. But I am sorry that you are having problems and that people are doing that. I'm so sorry. That it's really rough. It messes up your whole life. I know people have attacked me as well. But again, but I am praying. I'm praying right now. And then we have Ukraine says Russia has nearly 100,000 troops near its border. And a little piece of information here. It says, I hope the whole world can now clearly see who really wants peace and who is concentrating nearly 100,000 soldiers at our border. This was, of course, the president. The president Volodymyr Zelensky. It says he said that there was nearly 100,000 Russian soldiers near Ukraine's border. The Russian troop movements near the Ukrainian border has spurred fears of a possible attack. Moscow has dismissed such suggestions as inflammatory and complained about increasing activity in the region by the NATO Transatlantic Alliance. Well, the NATO Transatlantic Alliance is supposedly there, or what they're saying is because they believe that Russia is pushing all of the buttons of Ukraine. So everything with the Belarus-Poland border, is that to distract? We definitely saw huge distractions with WW2, especially after things kicked off. They used huge things. Now, I believe it was NATO, and I could be wrong if somebody wants to fix my quote here, but I want to say it was NATO. Very well, it was NATO, or it was the U.S. side and allies. It was allies that used the inflatable tanks during WW2 to actually distract, and I even want to say that was part of the whole Polish thing, or in that country. Russia is now going by the same playbook. They've got thousands and thousands of inflatable tanks, planes, everything else. I want to let me try to see if I can look up the operation name. Does anybody know the operation name of the inflatable tanks in WW2? It's called the Ghost Army, says it's Estunge Schiffi. And 411 says, I feel a Red Dawn scene coming soon. Pre-static astronomy says, correct, Marf. Inflatables used conflict-wide in WW2. Yes, because it would distract, and as far as from the planes, they thought they were real. They would concentrate forces where they weren't needed. Let's see. That's fine. Let's see here. Kristen Romar. That's probably not it, but that does sound interesting. Let's see here. No, not Mockingbird. Marf, I'm near your area, kinda. LOL, that wind was intense. But my point is, VZ Fat Cat, that it wasn't intense enough for the length of time that it was out.
Operation Fortitude.
Yes, that is it. So, Operation Fortitude. Boom. So let me show you this.
According to Wikipedia, Operation Fortitude was the code name for a World War II military deception employed by the Allied nations as part of an overall deception strategy during the build-up to the 1944 Normandy landings.
Boom. So, Google did that for me. Operation, it was a code name for World War military deception employed by the Allied nations as part of an overall deception strategy. And then it was codenamed Bodyguard, right? So the freaky part is, in just the last couple months, and here's an example. Here's 4 guys carrying a balloon, essentially. There's other videos of Jeeps and everything else, and people just blowing or kicking them over. But this was a huge advantage, and this helped the U.S. It helped the Allies. It helped everybody on the Allied side. Well, now Russia recently has been seen producing thousands and thousands of these. We're talking into the hundreds of thousands. Why? Because from satellite, they look the same. These new ones that they have today even show off they've got some sort of technology that make them show up by plane as a physical object. Or it puts off the same, the radio signals. So they have like a little thing that puts off the same signals. Now, I don't know if all of them have this, but I would assume at this point there would be no point if they could just be seen as nothing on a radar or something like that. So these are relatively, I mean, they're inexpensive compared to the real thing, but they're not super cheap. They're not just a balloon. It's an actual a piece of deception hardware. Sage News Network would love to hook up for a show. Sage News Network, it's nice to meet you. And then Seth Covington, thank you for being awesome. That Gen X dude, Ariel the Wrestling Mermaid, Mariah Daly, thank you for watching the replay. I appreciate you. So what do you think of all of this? It's pretty crazy that it's happening. What is your opinion? Put it in the comments down below. And then Austria orders lockdown for residents who have not received the... It says the Austrian... And by the way, this is the same country that Lily, I think the prepper Lily is from. And I want to say, I swear she just said she thought this was coming. So that would be a credit to her. It says the Austrian government has ordered a nationwide lockdown for the starting at midnight Monday to combat the rising in deaths. The move prohibits people 12 and older from leaving their home except for basic activities such as walking, grocery shopping, going for a walk, or getting the... Authorities are concerned about rising and deaths, and soon hospital staff will no longer be able to handle the growing influx of the patients, right? It says it's our job as the government of Austria to protect the people. So I just want to say I talked to somebody today, and this was an older lady, a neighbor of. We had to stay somewhere else because we didn't have power. A neighbor who's been next to my aunt for years and years and years. We got in a discussion, and she was pretty open-minded for being 85 and just kind of stuck on her view. She did. I said, well, the thing is not approved, right? And we know, everybody knows what I mean by approved. F, approved. And she said, no, yes, it is. Oh, it is. And I said, look it up. It's for a future version of this thing. It's not approved. And she, no, it is. That's why they're talking about it. I said, no, that's the future version. Go check it out. Anyways, I also another misnomer is she said, well, it's very selfish because everybody else could be damaged, and said, well, once you get it, then you don't transmit it. This is something that people think. Or that it's less likely, and then she changed it. Well, it's less likely that you'll no, that is not a fact. It is 100%. It's the same thing. If you spit on somebody or you cough on somebody, it's the same thing. You cannot put anything in you that would make you less likely to give somebody a cold. It's germs go into your body and replicate. It's period. No matter what kind it is, it's the same thing. I don't think there is anything that would make it less likely unless it was a totally different kind of thing. As far as this, you can still spread. And they said that she said nobody perishes once they've had it. That's not true. None of these things are true. But a lot of people have a lot of just this crazy stuff. I don't know where do they get the stuff? I don't understand it. So allegedly. Thank you. It's crazy. Or it's allegedly crazy. Supposedly. Allegedly. Bruce Lee and allegedly had a baby, and it's the president of Austria. Nein, soll impfpflicht. Oh, that's probably actually how you say it. Nein, soll impfpflicht. That's probably a filter word, and I didn't even know. Yeah. All over the world. It's crazy. There's people all over the world in the street, and then all the medias are showing one thing compared to what's really happening. They show like 3 people out on the steps like, no, don't do it. And then you see the real video, and it's tens of thousands of people. A very good example of this is Australia when they were just about to sign the stuff. So I won't get too far into it. You can go to web-only content for all of that. On another note, the B administration plans imminent booster expansion to all adults. Every year, folks. But it is not something that you can choose. If you go to me. By the way, Kay, I don't know how you change your font like that. That is cool. That is super cool. How you did it, you are. That is magical. You did magic. And then let's see here. Dex, do you have anything to say about the boost?
I think that both of those stories are just, the writing on the wall, and you guys need to understand what's coming, what's happening in other parts of the world, and how those things may or may not come here as, protocols. And we're seeing, these protocols expanded, and we'll continue to see that happen for the foreseeable future. So not telling you what to do, but just telling you to open your eyes.
And do you want to tell them about the web-only content?
Absolutely. So a lot has happened at the beginning of this week with the trial. So I'll give you a quick update on that. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, head over to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for this show, and scroll down to that yellow highlighted area that says web-only content. Or if you're on YouTube, just open the description. The first link, it's right there. It'll take you to it. It's everything that we can't necessarily cover in the show. Either it didn't make the cut, it was too hot for TV, or maybe it's just two-sided. I'll try to give as much updates as possible here on what happened in the trial, but more specifically, where we're at this stage is it's out and it's being deliberated. So we're waiting to hear back from the jury on that. In the closing that happened on Monday, it seemed running up to that, there was a whole lot of to do about a specific video. Well, it's so interesting when you see these $1 million lawyers try to put something together, yet you go to Twitter and you find that, you know, the internet has done a better job at presenting the facts, or at least presenting some of the video evidence. And again, it's not the actual evidence because it's just coming from social media, but there's some really good video analysis there that sort of debunks or tries its best to give a clearer picture of what was being said by one side of the equation there in the courtroom. Also, some interesting antics from the prosecutor there. And for those of you who know anything about holding a bang bang, you don't put your finger on that thing that he is doing right there. It always stays off, but apparently he decides to stick his finger on it while aiming it towards the jury box, which is kind of crazy. I bet that's a photo he'll never want to
whether it's
see
loaded
again.
Or unloaded, ever.
Exactly.
Ever. Dummy. Like in a trial talking about the safety and you know, not doing things, and then he does it.
Yeah. Binger, keep your binger off the trigger, right? So, but yeah, there's plenty going on. Also, some other stuff about FBI whistleblowers. You should go check out what's being reported there. As it becomes more widespread, we may cover it in a little bit more detail, but I think it's something we've already covered in the sense that we've talked about, you know, who they're targeting and why they're targeting it. So go there and see what the whistleblower had to say, which sort of backs that up. A lot more there. So everything about the trial, some information on that, and plenty more at marfooglenews.com. Web-only content.
Yeah, you might get a threat tag on you because you're a parent and you don't believe in everything that they say, right? There's a ton there. There's a whole nother show. Make sure to go down and check it out. Thank you for everybody that supported this late night show, and thank you for everybody that joined us over on DLive as well. Recalcitrant, gots to bow out before I fall out. See y'all tomorrow. Tomorrow will be a call-in show. Kelizzy, Ed G. Whalen, Blowtorch Barbie, Stoplight, Mr. Mo, Earthwoman, One On B, everybody that dropped diamonds and lemons, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you, everybody. Let's see. Oh, Firefighter, That Chucky Gal, Annette LaPow, Bling It Grammy, thank you. Very special thank you to Gone Girl 777, Amy R, EOD Vet, Susan Donahue. Thank you, everybody, for having a great night tonight. Thank you for all joining us. And Dex, thank you for your services tonight.
Much love. Great show, brother.
It is now officially time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. It's where I say thank you to the people that matter most, you. It's where I make silly on-the-spot music and say your names, because your names are more important than mine. I suggested. Thank you, Jesse.